The black ships came from the dark between stars, silent as death itself. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue world grow larger on the viewing screen. His four eyes gleamed with satisfaction as data streams flowed across the display panels. This planet held everything the Zorvek Empire needed. Water covered most of the surface. Rare metals lay buried in the crust. The atmosphere would be perfect for breathing once they cleaned out the current inhabitants. Kethver had done this same dance 100 times before. Find a primitive world, take what they needed, move the survivors to work camps. Simple and efficient. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the planet shows Class 5 development. Chemical rockets, basic nuclear weapons, crude communication networks, standard primitive technology. Kethver nodded. Class 5 worlds always fell within days. Sometimes hours. The beings living there never expected visitors from the stars. They panicked, fought with their primitive weapons for a while, then surrendered when they realized how hopeless their situation was. 3 massive ships hung in the outer edges of the solar system, hidden by advanced cloaking technology. Each vessel stretched over 5 miles long and carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The Zorvaks had built their empire by being practical. Why waste time on negotiations when superior force always worked? On Earth, Captain Jake Miller floated in the International Space Station, checking the morning sensor readings. Something felt wrong. The long-range detection equipment kept showing odd blips at the edge of the system. Probably just equipment problems, he thought. The station's systems were getting old. Jake had been an astronaut for 12 years. He knew space was big and empty. The idea that something might be out there, watching, never crossed his mind. He marked the sensor glitches in his daily report and moved on to other tasks. Far below, Dr. Lisa Carter sat in a cramped office at the City Research Facility in California. Radio telescopes around the world fed data into her computers, searching for signs of intelligent life among the stars. For 20 years, she had listened to the cosmic background noise, hoping to hear something that proved humanity was not alone. Today was different. Strange signals flickered across her screens. They came in organized patterns, too structured to be natural phenomena. Lisa's heart started beating faster. These signals looked artificial. They looked like communication between multiple sources. She ran the data through every analysis program she could find. The signals were definitely not random. Something was coordinating multiple transmitters near the outer planets. Lisa reached for her phone to call her supervisor, then stopped. She needed more evidence before making wild claims about alien contact. Meanwhile, Zorvak scout ships moved through the solar system like invisible ghosts. Their mission was simple: catalog everything about this world and its inhabitants. The creatures called themselves humans, according to their communication intercepts. They lived in large groups called cities and had divided their planet into territorial units called nations. Scout Commander Yix Hall reviewed the intelligence reports from his hidden position near Earth's moon. The humans had impressive population centers and industrial capacity for a primitive species. Their technology was crude, but showed signs of rapid development. Most concerning, they seemed to have a talent for making war on each other. Yishel studied human military history with growing unease. These creatures had fought constantly throughout their recorded past. They developed new weapons with frightening speed whenever they faced threats. Their wars grew more destructive with each generation. Even now, with primitive technology, they possessed enough nuclear weapons to destroy their own planets several times over. The scout commander filed a cautionary note in his report. Unlike most species the Empire had encountered, humans appeared to thrive under pressure. They became more dangerous when threatened, not less. He recommended additional study. Before beginning harvesting operations, his warning was buried in thousands of pages of routine intelligence data. The Empire's bureaucracy was vast and slow. Cautionary notes from field scouts rarely reached decision-makers. In time to matter. Back on the flagship, Admiral Kethvar received the preliminary assessment. The planet held vast quantities of rare earth metals, enough to supply the Empire's expansion for decades. The oceans contained more fresh water than a dozen conquered worlds combined. The native population could provide useful labor once properly conditioned. Begin preparation for demonstration, Kethvar ordered. Standard protocol. Show them our power. Give them time to panic, then accept their surrender. His weapons officer began charging the main guns. The demonstration would be simple, but effective. They would vaporize one of the system's larger asteroids with a single blast. The humans would detect the energy release and realize they faced technology beyond their understanding. Dr. Lisa Carter was still analyzing the strange signals when every radio telescope on Earth detected something impossible. A massive energy release erupted near the asteroid belt. The burst was too powerful and too focused to be natural. Someone had just demonstrated the ability to destroy mountain-sized objects in seconds. Lisa's hands shook as she processed the data. The energy signature matched theoretical calculations for antimatter weapons. No civilization on Earth possessed such technology. The signals she had been tracking suddenly made terrible sense. Earth was being watched by something with technology far beyond human capability. Jake Miller saw the flash from the space station. His instruments went crazy trying to measure the energy output. Whatever had just happened out, there was beyond anything humans could produce. He immediately opened a communication channel to Mission Control. The 3 Zorvak dreadnoughts dropped their cloaking fields and appeared in Earth's orbital space. Each ship was larger than any structure humanity had ever built. Their hulls gleamed with alien metals under the light of the sun. Weapon ports bristled along their sides like the spines of some cosmic predator. Admiral Kethvar smiled with satisfaction. The hard part was over. Now came the easy part, accepting another species' surrender and adding another world to the Empire's collection. He had no way of knowing that he had just made the worst mistake in Zorvak history. Earth's governments detected the massive ships within minutes. Emergency meetings began in every capital city. Military commanders activated defense protocols that had never been tested. Scientists tried to understand technology that seemed to violate known physics, but something else was happening in secret facilities around the world. Projects that officially did not exist began receiving activation codes. Experimental weapons, powered up in hidden bunkers. Prototype vehicles that had never flown prepared for their first missions. The Zorvaks had assumed they knew everything about human capability. They had studied public technology and military forces. They had not discovered humanity's deepest secrets, projects hidden behind layers of classification and denial. Technology reverse-engineered from previous visitations that governments had. Covered up for decades, Admiral Kethvar prepared to broadcast his ultimatum to the primitive world below. He expected fear, panic, and quick surrender. He had no idea that humanity's real response was already beginning in places his scouts had never found. The Empire desired Earth's resources. They were about to discover that some prices were too high to pay. Admiral Kethvar stood before the communication array, preparing to deliver the speech he had given to dozens of worlds. The words came easily after so many conquests. He activated the transmission system and began broadcasting to every communication device on the planet below. Primitive beings of the third planet. His voice reached every television, radio, and computer on Earth. I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zorvak Empire. Your world has been selected for resource extraction. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. Resistance will result in the total elimination of your species. The message repeated in every human language. Translation computers aboard the Zorvik ships had analyzed Earth's communication networks and learned to speak in hundreds of different tongues. The ultimatum was simple and direct. Submit or die. In Washington, President John Hayes rushed to the White House Situation Room. Military advisors, scientists, and intelligence officials filled the secure chamber. Everyone talked at once until the president raised his hand for silence. "What are we dealing with?" Hayes asked. General Patricia Stone stepped forward with a tablet full of technical data. 3 ships, each approximately 8 kilometers long. They appeared without warning, which means they have technology we can't detect. The energy burst. They demonstrated could level entire cities. Dr. Alex Rodriguez from the Advanced Defense Research Projects Agency cleared his throat. "Mr. President, there's something you need to know. Something that's been classified above top secret for 60 years." Hayes looked at him sharply. "What are you talking about, Rodriguez?" "The crashed objects in New Mexico, 1947. The incident in Russia, 1961. The Pacific recovery in 1997. They weren't weather balloons or experimental aircraft. We've been reverse engineering alien technology for decades." The room fell silent. General Stone stared at Rodriguez in disbelief. "You're telling us we have alien technology and nobody told the military?" "Need to know basis only," Rodriguez replied. "But right now, everyone needs to know. We're not as helpless as these aliens think." Around the world, similar conversations took place in every major capital. Emergency sessions convened in London, Moscow, Beijing, and dozens of other cities. The message was always the same: surrender or face extinction. But humanity's response was not what the Zorvaks expected. Commander Elena Vasquez coordinated the global military response from a bunker deep beneath the Pentagon. Her job was supposed to be impossible: organize Earth's defense against technology centuries ahead of human capability. But Elena had been preparing for this day her entire career. "All units, activate Protocol 7, she broadcast on encrypted channels. "This is not a drill. Unknown hostile forces have issued an ultimatum. All black projects are now operational." In underground facilities across the globe, machines that officially did not exist began powering up. Projects funded by money that appeared nowhere in any budget came online for the first time. Scientists and engineers who had worked in complete secrecy for their entire careers finally saw their work put to the test. Captain Rick Turner sat in the cockpit of an aircraft that looked like nothing in any public military manual. The experimental fighter used propulsion technology that Earth scientists barely understood. They had copied it from crashed alien vessels, making improvements where they could. "Phoenix Squadron, prepare for launch," Rick's radio crackled. "We're going to show these invaders that Earth has teeth." The fighter's engines came to life with a low hum that seemed to bend space around the craft. Rick had trained for this mission for 5 years, never knowing if the technology would actually work when needed. Today he would find out. Dr. Rachel Kim worked frantically in a control room buried beneath the Nevada desert. Banks of computers surrounded her, each one connected to experimental weapon systems hidden around the world. The Prometheus network had been designed to defend Earth against asteroid impacts. Today, it would serve a different purpose. "Fusion reactors at full power," Rachel announced to her team. "All targeting systems online. We're drawing enough electricity to power half the United States, but the weapons are ready." The systems Rachel controlled used focused energy beams that could reach orbital targets. The technology came from studying alien power sources recovered decades ago. Human engineers had built weapons around principles they barely understood, hoping they would never need to use them. Colonel Steve Murphy supervised the activation of railgun installations disguised as radio telescope arrays. The massive electromagnetic cannons could accelerate tungsten projectiles to incredible speeds. Each shot required enough power to light up a small city, but the kinetic energy could punch through any known armor. "All stations report ready," Steve announced. "Target acquisition systems are locked onto the alien vessels. We have firing solutions on all 3 ships." The railguns were humanity's attempt to create weapons that could threaten spacecraft. The aliens had energy shields, but physics was physics. A tungsten rod moving at near light speed carried enough kinetic energy to test any defensive system. Meanwhile, in the deepest bunkers, humanity's most secret project came online. Commander Lisa Park interfaced with artificial intelligence systems that had been developing in isolation for decades. These AI networks could coordinate defensive operations with inhuman precision and speed. Network connection established. Lisa reported, "All defensive systems are now under coordinated control. The AI can respond to alien tactics faster than any human commander." The artificial intelligence had been trained on every military conflict in human history. It understood tactics, strategy, and the art of war better than any general who had ever lived. Most importantly, it had been designed to fight enemies with superior technology. As the 72-hour deadline approached, the Zorvacs monitored human communications and military movements. They expected panic, riots, and desperate attempts to hide from the inevitable. Instead, they detected organized military preparations on a global scale. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, "the humans are activating military assets we didn't know they possessed. Energy signatures suggest advanced weapon systems." Kethver studied the data with growing confusion. The intelligence reports had cataloged human military capability: chemical rockets, nuclear weapons, conventional aircraft. Nothing that could threaten Zorvik vessels. Yet the sensor readings showed activity that seemed impossible for a primitive civilization. "Maintain position," he ordered. "They're probably activating their most advanced weapons in desperation. Nuclear missiles cannot penetrate our shields." But doubt crept into the Admiral's mind. Scout Commander Yix-Hall's warnings echoed in his memory. Humans seemed to have hidden capabilities that didn't match their apparent technology level. Perhaps additional caution was warranted. The deadline arrived with Earth's response, broadcast simultaneously from every major government. President Hayes spoke for humanity when he looked directly into the camera and delivered a message that would echo across the galaxy. To the Zorvik Empire, Hayes said in a calm, steady voice, "You have made a fundamental error in judgment. You assumed we were helpless because our technology appears primitive. You were wrong. Humanity does not surrender to bullies, no matter how advanced their weapons. You picked the wrong species to threaten." The message concluded with a simple statement that chilled Admiral Kethver to his core: "We are ready for you." Across Earth, hidden weapon systems powered up to full capacity. Experimental fighters prepared for launch. Artificial intelligence networks activated combat protocols. Orbital defense platforms that existed nowhere in public records prepared to engage alien warships. The Zorvacs had expected terror and surrender. Instead, they faced something they had never encountered in centuries of conquest: a species that treated impossible odds as a personal challenge. Admiral Kethver gave the order to begin limited bombardment. He intended to demonstrate Zorvik power and break human resistance with a show of overwhelming force. He had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the first alien craft crashed in Earth's Desert 78. Years ago, the first shots of the war were about to be fired. The outcome would surprise everyone involved. Admiral Kethver gave the order with confidence born from 100 previous conquests. Begin limited bombardment of the largest population centers. Target their military installations first. Show them the futility of resistance. The first Zorvek. Attack came as beams of pure energy lanced down from orbit. The weapons were designed to vaporize military targets while leaving infrastructure intact. The aliens wanted Earth's resources, not smoking craters, but the energy beams never reached their targets. Captain Rick Turner's experimental fighter squadron intercepted the first attack wave at the edge of Earth's atmosphere. The Phoenix aircraft moved unlike anything the Zorvacs had ever seen. They accelerated without visible propulsion, changed direction at impossible angles, and somehow survived in the vacuum of space despite their atmospheric design. Contact. Rick shouted into his radio, engaging alien weapons platforms. His fighters' weapons systems locked onto the incoming energy beams and fired interceptor pulses that disrupted the alien targeting systems. The technology was decades ahead of anything in public military inventories, reverse engineered from crashed alien vessels and improved by human ingenuity. The Zorvik weapons officer stared at his displays in confusion. Admiral, our bombardment. Systems are being jammed by unknown aircraft. Sensors indicate primitive atmospheric fighters, but they're operating in space. Kethfer felt the first stirring of unease. Human aircraft had no business surviving in orbital space, much less interfering with Zorvik weapon systems. Switch to secondary targeting protocols. Eliminate those fighters. The alien ships turned their attention to Rick's squadron, but the human pilots had trained for exactly this scenario. They scattered in all directions, using evasive patterns that took advantage of their spacecraft's unusual capabilities. Phoenix 2, you've got one on your tail, Rick called out as alien fighters launched from the dreadnoughts. Copy that, Phoenix. Leader, engaging evasive maneuvers. The dogfight that followed defied everything the Zorvaks thought they knew about primitive species. Human fighters moved with precision and coordination that seemed impossible for such crude technology. They fought as a unit, covering each other and adapting their tactics in real time. On the ground, Dr. Rachel Kim activated the Prometheus network. Energy weapons hidden in locations around the world powered up simultaneously, drawing electricity from fusion reactors that officially did not exist. All stations prepare to fire, Rachel announced. Target the lead dreadnought. Full power. Discharge in 3, 2, 1, mark. Beams of concentrated energy erupted from disguised installations on 6 continents. The weapons looked like radio telescopes or research facilities to casual observation, but they were actually humanity's attempt to build orbital defense systems. Using alien technology, the energy beams struck the Zorvek flagship's shields and caused them to flare with brilliant light. The alien defensive systems held, but power fluctuations showed they were not invulnerable. For the first time in Zorvek military history, a primitive species had managed to stress their shield technology. Impossible, breathed the tactical officer. No Class 5 civilization should possess directed energy weapons. Admiral Kethfer studied the damage reports with growing alarm. The shields had held, but barely. Another coordinated attack might actually penetrate their defenses. How had the humans developed such advanced weapons without the Zorvek intelligence network detecting them? Colonel Steve Murphy chose that moment to activate the railgun installations. The electromagnetic cannons had been disguised as scientific research facilities for decades, hidden in plain sight around the world. Each one could accelerate tungsten projectiles to near light speed. All railgun stations fire at will, Steve commanded. Target the nearest alien vessel. The tungsten rods were barely visible as they streaked toward the Zorvik ships at incredible velocity. The aliens detected the incoming projectiles, but their point defense systems were designed to stop energy weapons and missiles, not solid. Objects moving at relativistic speeds. The first rod struck the second, dreadnoughts' shields and punched through like they weren't there. The kinetic energy release lit up the alien ship's hull with cascading explosions. Emergency klaxons wailed throughout the Zorvek fleet as damage reports flooded their communication systems. "Hull breach on Deck 7, came the panicked report. From the damaged ship, shield generators offline, backup power systems failing. Kethver watched in disbelief as a second tungsten rod slammed into the same vessel, this time penetrating deep into the ship's interior. The dreadnought's elegant hull cracked like an eggshell, venting atmosphere and debris into Space. Commander Lisa Park activated humanity's most secret weapon, the artificial intelligence network that had been developing in hidden facilities for decades. The AI system immediately began coordinating Earth's defensive efforts with inhuman precision. "Network active," Lisa reported. "All defensive systems now under centralized control. Response time to alien tactics reduced to milliseconds." The AI analyzed Zorvek attack patterns and predicted their next moves before the aliens themselves had decided what to do. Human weapons systems began firing at targets that wouldn't exist for several seconds, creating a defensive web that seemed to anticipate every alien maneuver. The effect was devastating. Zorvik fighters found themselves flying into carefully calculated crossfires. Their energy weapons struck empty space, while human projectiles found their marks with uncanny accuracy. The aliens were fighting an enemy that seemed to know their thoughts before they thought them. "Admiral," the communications officer reported in a shaking voice, "we're receiving tactical data from the surface. The humans appear to be using some form of predictive combat system." Kethver had never encountered anything like this in decades of conquest. Primitive species were supposed to panic when faced with superior firepower. They weren't supposed to fight back with technology that seemed to violate their own development level. Captain Rick Turner led his squadron in a coordinated attack on the damaged dreadnought. The human fighters moved in perfect formation, their weapons striking weak points in the alien ship's hull with surgical precision. "Phoenix Squadron, concentrate fire on the engine section," Rick ordered. "Let's see how well they fly with damaged propulsion." The experimental weapons aboard the human fighters were designed specifically to exploit alien technology weaknesses. Decades of studying crashed vessels had taught Earth scientists exactly where to aim for maximum effect. The second dreadnought began listing to one side as its propulsion systems failed. Emergency escape pods launched from the dying ship as its crew abandoned their posts. Admiral Kethvar watched in horror as one of the Empire's most powerful warships was crippled by creatures the intelligence reports had dismissed as primitive. "Savages, all ships, withdraw to safe distance," he ordered. "Prepare for full bombardment protocols." But even as the Zorvik fleet pulled back, human forces pressed their advantage. Dr. Rachel Kin's energy weapons tracked the retreating ships, continuing to hammer their shields with precisely timed pulses. Colonel Steve Murphy's railguns fired salvo after salvo of tungsten projectiles, each one aimed at critical systems. The third dreadnought suffered a cascade failure when a railgun round penetrated its shield generator housing. Without defensive screens, the massive ship became vulnerable to every weapon Earth could bring to bear. "This is impossible," Kethver muttered as he watched another of his dreadnoughts take crippling damage. "Class 5 civilizations don't fight like this. They don't have this technology." Scout Commander Yix Hall approached the Admiral with grim satisfaction. "Sir, I believe the humans have been hiding their true capabilities. Our intelligence assessment was fundamentally flawed." Kethver turned to stare at his subordinate. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we attacked a species that's been preparing for this exact scenario for decades. They've been studying our technology and developing countermeasures. We walked into a trap." The realization hit Admiral Kethver like a physical blow. The Zorvek Empire had built its power by attacking unprepared worlds. They had never faced a species that was ready for them. Earth's governments had been planning for alien invasions since the first crashed ships provided proof that they were not alone in the universe. On Earth's surface, Commander Elena Vasquez coordinated the global defense from her underground command center. Status reports flooded in from around the world. 2 alien ships crippled, the third retreating, human casualties minimal. All units maintain pressure, she ordered. Don't let them regroup. For the first time in the war, Elena allowed herself a moment of hope. Humanity had survived the first engagement and drawn alien blood. The invaders were not invincible after all, but she knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come when the aliens stopped underestimating their opponents and began fighting for their lives. Admiral Kethver stood in the wreckage of his command center, watching damage reports stream across cracked display screens. 2 of his 3 dreadnoughts were crippled, their crews fighting desperately to keep life support systems online. The 3rd ship had lost most of its weapons and was running on emergency power dot. In 30 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. The humans fought with a coordination and tactical awareness that defied their primitive classification. Worse, they seemed to be learning and adapting to Zorvek tactics in real time. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the humans are using captured technology to track our movements. They know exactly where we are at all times. Kethver felt anger rise in his chest. These creatures had somehow turned the Empire's own advantages against them. Signal the High Command. Request immediate reinforcement. Priority 1 emergency. The message would take weeks to reach the nearest Imperial fleet. Admiral Kethver was on his own against an enemy that had already proven capable of destroying his forces. On Earth, Dr. Amy Chun worked frantically in a laboratory filled with alien technology. Pieces of Zorvak equipment captured from the damaged ships covered every work surface. Human scientists had been studying alien systems for hours, learning more about their enemies with each passing minute. The power couplings are standardized, Amy announced to her team. Every Zorvak system uses the same connections. If we can disrupt their power grid, we can disable entire ships. The discovery was exactly what humanity needed. The aliens had built their empire using uniform technology across thousands of worlds. It made their logistics simple, but created a single point of failure that human engineers could exploit. Amy's team began designing quantum bombs specifically tailored to Zorvek power systems. The weapons wouldn't destroy alien ships outright, but they would turn their own energy sources against them. It was an elegant solution to fighting enemies with superior firepower. Captain Luke Anderson prepared for the most dangerous mission of his life. His team of 12 volunteers would use captured alien shuttles to board one of the damaged dreadnoughts. Their job was to plant Amy's quantum bombs throughout the enemy ship. Remember, Luke told his squad, we're not trying to destroy the ship. We want to disable it and capture as much technology as possible. These aliens have been conquering worlds for centuries. It's time someone turned the tables. The modified shuttles launched from a hidden base in Antarctica, using Zorvik transponder codes to appear friendly on alien sensors. Luke's heart pounded as they approached the crippled dreadnought. If the aliens discovered them too early, the mission would end in death for everyone involved. Meanwhile, General Kate Morris coordinated humanity's first offensive operation. Human forces had spent decades preparing to defend Earth, but now they were taking the fight to enemy territory. Captured alien technology made it possible to track Zorvek supply ships and staging areas throughout the solar system. Strike Teams Alpha through Delta. You are cleared for launch, Kate announced from her command bunker. Target the alien supply depot on the dark side of the moon. We're cutting off their reinforcements. The attack ships were unlike anything in Earth's official military inventory. They used hybrid technology that combined human engineering with alien systems reverse engineered from crashed vessels. The result was crude by Zorvak standards, but effective enough to threaten their logistics network. Captain Luke Anderson's boarding party reached the alien dreadnought without being detected. The damaged ship's sensors were offline, allowing the human shuttles to dock without triggering alarms. Luke led his team through airlocks designed for beings twice the size of humans. "Stay together," he whispered into his radio. "We have 20 minutes to plant the bombs before our shuttle transponders fail." The interior of the Zorvek ship was a maze of corridors and machinery that humans barely understood. Luke's team moved quickly through the vessel, placing quantum bombs at critical junction points throughout the power grid. Each device was no larger than a cell phone, but contained enough exotic matter to overload an entire deck. On the alien bridge, Admiral Kethfor struggled to regain control of the situation. His fleet was scattered and damaged. His supply lines were under attack, and the humans seemed to know his every move before he made it. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the ship. It appears to be some form of scanning or infiltration." Kethfer's blood ran cold. "Internal security. Sweep all decks for intruders. Authorization code 77 Alpha." But Luke Anderson's team had already completed their mission. The quantum bombs were in place and armed, waiting for the signal to activate. The human boarding party retreated to their shuttles, just as Zorvak security forces began searching the ship. Dr. Amy Chun watched from Earth as telemetry data flowed from the yaw. Bombs her team had designed. Every explosive was positioned perfectly to create a cascade failure throughout the alien ship's power systems. "All devices show green status," she reported to the command center. "Ready to activate on your order." Commander Elena Vasquez studied the tactical display showing the positions of all 3 alien ships. The moment had come to test whether human ingenuity could overcome superior alien technology. "Execute," she ordered. The quantum bombs activated simultaneously throughout the Zorvak dreadnought. Instead of exploding, they created small distortions in space-time that interfered with the flow of exotic matter through the ship's power conduits. The effect spread like a virus through the vessel's energy grid. Admiral Kethfer watched in horror as his flagship died around him. Power failed deck by deck as the cascade effect spread throughout the ship. Emergency lighting flickered and went dark. Life support systems shut down. The great dreadnought became a dead hulk drifting in space. "Abandon ship," he ordered with defeat in his voice. All hands to escape pods, but the humans weren't finished. General Kate Morris had coordinated the timing perfectly. As the alien crew evacuated their dying ship, human fighters swept in to capture the escape pods. Instead of allowing the Zorvaks to regroup, Earth's forces were taking prisoners. Captain Rick Turner led the capture mission with grim satisfaction. "Phoenix Squadron, secure the alien escape pods. We're taking these invaders home for questioning." For the first time in Zorvik history, an Imperial admiral found himself a prisoner of the species he had tried to conquer. Kethfer's escape pod was tractored aboard a human vessel, where he faced creatures he had dismissed as primitive savages. Just hours before, Lieutenant Sarah Brooks was the human officer assigned to guard the alien admiral. She looked at the four-eyed creature with professional curiosity rather than fear or hatred. "Admiral Kethfer," she said in perfectly translated Zorvik, "I'm Lieutenant Brooks. You're now a prisoner of war under the protection of Earth's unified government." Kethfer stared at the small human female in disbelief. She spoke his language flawlessly and showed no sign of the terror he expected from a primitive being. If anything, she seemed to regard him with something approaching pity. "How?" he asked. "How did you prepare for this? Your species should have." had no knowledge of the Empire's existence. Sarah smiled grimly. "Admiral, your people have been visiting Earth for almost a century. Every crashed ship, every failed abduction, every piece of technology your scouts left behind. We studied it all. We've been waiting for you." The revelation hit Cathvar like a physical blow. The Empire's intelligence services had failed completely. Their scouts and advance teams had been detected and studied for decades. Humanity had used that time to prepare for exactly this scenario. Across the solar system, human forces pressed their advantage. Alien supply depots fell to coordinated strikes. Zorvak communication networks were jammed or captured. The remnants of the invasion fleet found themselves cut off from reinforcement and surrounded by an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Commander Elena Vasquez received reports from across the theater of operations. 3 alien dreadnoughts. Destroyed or captured. Multiple supply bases eliminated. Enemy leadership in human custody. The invasion had become a complete disaster for the Zorvak Empire, but Elena knew this was only the beginning. Word of humanity's resistance would spread across the galaxy. Other species enslaved by the Empire would learn that the Zorvaks could be defeated. Earth had become more than just another target world. It had become a symbol of hope for every oppressed civilization in the galaxy. The Empire had desired Earth's resources. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous. Humanity's potential as liberators rather than victims. Admiral Cathvar sat in the detention cell aboard the human vessel, staring at walls made of materials he didn't recognize. The impossible had happened. A primitive world had not only resisted the Zorvak Empire, but defeated it completely. 3 dreadnoughts destroyed, hundreds of crew captured, and an entire invasion fleet scattered to the solar winds. Lieutenant Sarah Brooks entered the cell carrying a tablet and a translation device. The young human officer had been questioning him for hours, learning about Zorvak military structure, technology, and weaknesses. Her knowledge of Imperial tactics was disturbingly complete. "Admiral," Sarah said, settling into a chair across from the alien prisoner, "we've been monitoring Imperial communication networks. Your reinforcements won't arrive for another 6 months. That gives us plenty of time to prepare a proper welcome." Cathvar looked at her with something approaching respect. These humans had turned his invasion into a learning experience, studying captured technology and interrogating prisoners to understand their enemies better. No species in the galaxy had ever treated warfare as an educational opportunity. "You don't understand what you've started," he warned. "The Empire has thousands of ships, millions of warriors. This defeat will only anger them." Sarah smiled coldly. "Admiral, we've been studying your empire for decades. We know exactly what we've started. The question is whether your people know what they're dealing with." In laboratories around Earth, human scientists worked around the clock to understand. Captured Zorvak technology. Dr. Paul Wright led a team that had successfully decoded alien, faster-than-light communication systems. For the first time in human history, Earth could speak directly to civilizations across the galaxy. "Communication array is online," Paul announced to the assembled team. "We're picking up transmissions from dozens of star systems. The galaxy is bigger than we imagined." The intercepted communications revealed the true scope of the Zorvak Empire. Hundreds of worlds lived under alien domination, their populations enslaved or relocated, their resources stripped away. But something else came through in the transmissions. Hope. Word of Earth's victory was spreading faster than Imperial sensors could contain it. Species that had been conquered generations ago were learning that the invincible Zorvaks could be defeated. Rebellion was beginning to stir on worlds that had been quiet for centuries. Commander Tony Clark led humanity's most ambitious mission yet. His team had spent weeks modifying captured alien vessels, turning Zorvak technology against its creators. The hybrid ships combined human innovation with Imperial engineering, creating vessels that were crude but effective. Strike Force Alpha. Prepare for jump, Tony announced from the bridge of the modified dreadnought. Our target is the Zorvek supply base in the Alpha Centauri system. We're taking this war to the enemy. The ship's hybrid faster-than-light drive engaged with a sound, like reality tearing apart. Human engineers had reverse-engineered the technology from captured vessels, making improvements where they could. The result was faster and more efficient than the original Zorvek design. On Earth, Commander Elena Vasquez coordinated the global response to humanity's changing situation. The planet was no longer just defending itself, but actively pursuing the retreating aliens. Earth had become the center of a growing resistance movement that stretched across multiple star systems. All units maintain pressure on enemy forces, Elena ordered. Don't give them time to regroup or call for reinforcement. Human ships pursued fleeing Zorvak vessels throughout the solar system, capturing technology and prisoners wherever they found them. Each engagement taught Earth's forces more about alien weaknesses and tactics. The hunters had become the hunted. Dr. Amy Chun made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the computers of the captured flagship, she found detailed records of every world the Empire had conquered. Population figures, resource surveys, military assessments. Most importantly, she found communication codes for resistance movements that still existed on dozens of occupied planets. We can contact them, Amy announced excitedly. There are freedom fighters on dozens of worlds, just waiting for someone to coordinate their efforts. The revelation transformed Earth's mission from simple self-defense to something much larger. Humanity had the opportunity to become the catalyst for galactic liberation, turning isolated resistance movements into a coordinated rebellion against Zorvek rule. Lieutenant Sarah Brooks delivered Admiral Kethvar's final interrogation session. The alien commander had provided a complete overview of Imperial military structure, technology, and strategic doctrine. More importantly, he had revealed the locations of every major Zorvek installation within 50 light-years of Earth. Thank you for your cooperation, Admiral, Sarah said formally. You've been very helpful. Kethvar stared at the young human with something approaching awe. You're going to attack the Empire directly, aren't you? You're not content with just defending your world. Admiral, Sarah replied, your people have been enslaving entire civilizations for centuries. Someone needs to remind the galaxy that freedom is possible. Commander Tony Clark's strike force emerged from faster-than-light travel near the Alpha Centauri system. The Zorvak supply base hung in space like a metal asteroid, protected by automated defense systems and a small garrison of Imperial troops. All units begin attack run, Tony ordered. Remember, we want to capture as much intact technology as possible. The human vessels moved with coordination that surprised the defending Zorvaks. These weren't the primitive spacecraft Imperial intelligence had reported. The attacking ships used advanced tactics and technology that seemed impossible for such a young species. The battle was over in minutes. Human forces overwhelmed the surprised defenders and captured the entire installation intact. More importantly, they rescued over 1,000 alien prisoners who had been enslaved by the Empire. Among the freed prisoners was Zix Kala, a leader of the resistance movement on her home world of Vexstar. She looked at her human rescuers with tears in her 4 eyes. We thought we were forgotten, she whispered. We thought no one would ever come. Tony smiled grimly. Nobody is forgotten while humans exist. We're here to help you take your world back. The rescue of alien resistance fighters marked the beginning of humanity's transformation from defenders to liberators. Earth's forces began coordinating with freedom movements across the galaxy, providing weapons, technology, and tactical support to anyone fighting Zorvek oppression. Back on Earth, President John Hayes addressed the planet in a speech that would be remembered for generations. Standing before cameras that broadcast to every corner of the world, he spoke words that would echo across the galaxy. "My fellow humans," Hayes began, "we face a choice that will define our species for centuries to come. We can remain isolated on our world, content with our survival. Or we can take our place among the stars as champions of freedom for all sentient beings." The decision was unanimous. Humanity would not stop with defending Earth. They would carry the fight to every corner of the galaxy until no world lived under the shadow of imperial oppression. Admiral Kethver was present for the final ceremony, watching as human and alien. Resistance leaders signed a formal alliance against the Zorvak Empire. The document was broadcast across dozens of worlds, inspiring new uprisings and coordinated rebellions. "You've doomed yourselves," he told Sarah Brooks as they watched the ceremony. "The Empire will never stop hunting you now." Sarah looked at him with calm confidence. "Admiral, you still don't understand. Are not the ones being hunted anymore. Your empire picked a fight with a species that never learned how to give up. That was your mistake." The final scene played. Out in space above Earth, as a fleet of hybrid vessels prepared to jump to distant stars. Each ship carried human crews alongside alien resistance fighters, united in their determination to end Zorvak rule forever. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching Earth shrink behind them. Her planet had gone from an isolated world to the center of a galactic revolution in a matter of weeks. Humanity was heading into the galaxy not as conquerors, but as liberators. "All ships report ready for jump," came the voice from the communications. "Officer." Elena smiled as she gave the order that would change galactic history. "Jump." The human fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, carrying hope to worlds that had known only oppression for generations. Behind them, Earth continued to build new ships and train new crews. The war for galactic freedom had only just begun. The Zorvak Empire had desired Earth's resources, but found something infinitely more valuable: humanity's unbreakable spirit and determination to see justice done. They had awakened a sleeping giant that would not rest until every sentient being in the galaxy lived free from tyranny. The age of the Empire was ending. The age of liberation had begun.